The higher the temperature rises, the more there is a climate emergency. Move. Okay, why are you on the neutral?
Because it's not so much about the effects happening right now and how much higher the temperature is rising, because as Mr. Ortega mentioned, only a degree. It's more about what is to come. How far are we going to go until we can't go back anymore? That's at the crux of my point. That's why I went neutral.
Who's seen this done before? I'm just curious. Oh, wow, ton of people. Okay, cool. All right, so everybody ready? There is a climate emergency. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. So you disagree. How do you define emergency?
I define emergency as any point in which we are nearing the brink that it cannot be saved, something cannot be saved, and that we need to take immediate action to fix it.
Do you understand his definition? Not do you agree, do you understand?
Yes, I understand that definition.
Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think we're not in a climate emergency?
Because a climate emergency will say that we need to take resources that we don't have, or we are just taking from others to improve something that it is not actually an emergency.
An emergency sort of invokes emergency action, and I don't think that climate change invokes emergency action. I acknowledge that it is something that down the line we'll eventually have to deal with, but I don't believe that emergency is the proper term for it, because that would imply that it requires immediate action, and I don't think it does.
The main thing that it's an emergency cannot be denied. Whether it's difficult, that can be argued, but can't be denied. It's here and it's happening.
Well, temperatures are increasing at a very high rate, as we found lately, and it is not because of the usual cycle of Earth's temperatures increasing and then decreasing. No, they're at record-breaking paces, and in some places, like the ice caps, it's going up as much as 3 degrees Celsius per year.
Okay. Do you understand his point?
Yes, I do.
Do you agree with his reasoning?
That the temperatures are increasing quick enough to denote it an emergency? No.
How quickly would the temperatures have to be before it was considered, it comported with the definition of emergency?
Quicker than we're seeing now, which is a degree Celsius in the past about 150 years.
He disagrees. Is the figure that he gave reasonable to fit your definition of emergency?
I don't believe it's reasonable to fit my definition.
Why not?
Well, because what you've provided, Mr. Ortega, I believe that the whole reason why we have a climate emergency in the first place is exactly what you're describing. We believe it will become a problem later down the line, which is why we're facing the issue now.
Okay, everybody reset to the neutral, please. New claim. For something to be an emergency, it must require action. For something to be an emergency, it must require action. Move. So we've got one strongly agree. Why do you strongly agree with that statement?
I strongly agree because in any situation that is considered an emergency, whether it be terror attacks or natural disasters, you want to take immediate action to those situations. We've seen many times repeated before, when we don't take immediate action, situations like emergencies get worse.
Okay, do you agree with what he said?
Yes.
Okay, go back to the neutral, please. The higher the temperature rises, the more there is a climate emergency. Move. Okay, why are you on the neutral?
Because it's not so much about the effects happening right now and how much higher the temperature is rising, because as Mr. Ortega mentioned, only a degree. It's more about what is to come. How far are we going to go until we can't go back anymore? That's at the crux of my point. That's why I went neutral.
And why do you slightly disagree?
I disagree that the temperatures doesn't require an action or doesn't mean there is an emergency, because the temperatures are going up and down every single day, and that doesn't mean there is something we have to do about it.
Okay, go back to the neutral, please. temperature is the most important criteria for judging a climate emergency? Move. You slightly agree. Why?
Because temperature affects a wide range of other aspects that affects us. So for example, when the temperature increases overall, we're going to see an increase in the melting of the ice caps. I believe it's about 4 times the rate according to the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. And the problem with that is that if the temperature continues to increase, we're going to see that these ice caps will lead to a sea level rise, which could cause immigration problems, possibly even more flooding down the line. And that's why I believe that is somewhat the most important criteria. I do acknowledge, though, that there are other criteria that also play a factor. That's not why I'm standing further.
I was literally just going to ask you that. And what would those other criteria be? Or just give me a criterion.
Overall, the amount of natural disasters and the extremity of them.
And more natural disasters means what?
So more natural disasters means that specifically developing countries that don't have the infrastructure to deal with that. Going back to floods, if a country has a large population that's vulnerable to flooding because they're near the coastline and they don't have the infrastructure, say elevated houses, to deal with a large flood, then a lot of their population could be wiped out or forced to move.
You're like, I'm thinking Bangladesh. Okay, so, but how do we know that there were natural disasters in areas that were previously unpopulated?
Could you?
Well, like if it's not temperature and it's natural disasters, if you say that there's an increase in natural disasters, that must mean you have some kind of historic empirical information, but there were people who were not living in large swaths of the planet, and there could have been an equal number of disasters, but we had no way to measure those disasters because no one was living there.
So I think usually what meteorologists use is a 30-year average, and we do have data going back to, I want to say, at least 100 years. I don't know the exact amount. So we can still have like 70-ish of those 30-year averages, which does provide some useful information to actually gauge how many natural disasters that we're having.
Okay, so temperature is the most important criteria for judging a climate emergency. You disagree. Why?
I disagree because I believe that, as I'm studying in school right now, carbon dioxide plays a very huge part in temperature increases on the Earth.
Explain the mechanism of that.
What happens is when carbon dioxide and other harmful pollutants are released into the air, they can deplete the ozone layer, which causes temperatures to decrease from more harmful rays from the sun getting into Earth, causing it to heat up more.
Got it. How come you're on the disagree?
Because there are other factors other than temperature that will eventually lead to temperature change that are just as urgent. Like, for example, right now we are at the most coal consumption we've ever been at, right? And we understand that although maybe right now the temperature may not have increased drastically, we know that this is a precursor. The precursors are just as important as the eventuality itself.
It's a precursor to what?
To natural disasters like Mr. Ortega mentioned, and as he failed to mention, droughts, which lead to food insecurities in places where there already is food insecurities, and all of our problems are essentially going to be exacerbated to the umpteenth degree.
Okay, so given the reasoning you just gave, I'm a little unclear why you're on the disagree and not the strongly disagree.
Because the signs that we get before the temperature increases, right, are just as important as noticing, oh, the temperature is increasing. We also have to notice that, this is going to happen, this is eventually going to lead to this, but this is important now.
Okay, go back to the neutral, please. Policy related to climate change is politically motivated. Move. Okay, so why are you on the neutral?
I don't believe that policy in politics is related to climate change, but I am also not disproving that there is a little bit of politics involved.
So there could be.
There could be, because there was a case in 2009 where scientists were smudging records.
Okay. Why are you on the agree?
Because politicians are looking to gain support from a growing young population, and one of the main issues that this growing young population believes in is climate change. So one way to gain those voters is by saying that you're going to make policy to deal with climate change. So I believe that a lot of the time, it's not necessarily about whether they believe it is or isn't a problem. It's more about gaining voters so they can actually get into office.
Do you agree with what he said?
Yes, I agree with what he said, but actually I want to add that when they declare something an emergency, they can spend as much as they want to take the action to resolve that problem. And that will give them the opportunity to spend as much as they want, not only in what they consider an emergency, but what is related to it.
Okay, and you are on strongly agree. Tell us why.
Well, because it's the clear and unfortunate truth. Politicians do what gets them elected. And to kind of flip that, it's we, the people, that have pressured them into taking these stances. We're the ones that put it on the ballots. And, I mean, we are the ones that have that influence. Politicians are going to do whatever, they're going to say whatever they need to in order to get our votes. So, yes, it is political.
Okay, go back to the neutral, please. If no action is taken, humanity will be extinct within 100 years. Move. Okay, could you please pick up a board there? And can you please pick up a board? I want you to write the best reason you have for believing that. What did he write down?
High increase in temperature and increase in natural disaster.
Is that your reason that you've written on the board? Don't show me, just yes or no.
No.
What is his best reason?
What he wrote is that climate change, as of right now, is not increasing at a high enough rate to be considered an emergency.
Is he correct?
No.
I'll give you one more guess because we got to go.
Increase in extreme weather events?
Is that it? Increase in extreme weather events?
No.
No.
You're closer. You're closer. You're
Closer, but that's not it. Guess his best reason.
Humans still have more time left before 2100.
Closer, but no.
Okay, tell him what your reason is.
Humans are highly adaptable and resistant to catastrophe.
Not do you agree with his reason, but do you understand it?
Yes.
Tell him what your reason is.
Climate change is already going at rapid rates. Ice caps are melting rapidly as well. Just like the past, we will repeat these mistakes if we don't take action.
Not do you agree, but do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so normally this takes a few more minutes, but we need to do this quickly. Everybody put the boards down. Sorry we didn't get to you. Put the boards down right there with the eraser and the marker and go back to the neutral. I'm going to ask the same question that we started with. There is a climate emergency. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Is anybody on a different mat now than when they started? Okay, give them a hand.